The feared demon emperor believed that rebirth had given him a second chance at absolute freedom. Then, one step away from two doomed strangers made his new heart begin to tear itself apart. Before that night ended, Zhuo Fan would have to serve a fallen clan or die inside a body that refused to obey him. Only a short time had passed since the legendary Zhuo Yifan awakened inside the body of a young servant. In his former life, he had stood at the summit of the Holy Domain as the Magic Emperor. Entire sects had feared his name, and powerful cultivators had avoided his territory. Even the 7 emperors had joined forces to seize the Book of Nine Secrets from him. Betrayal had finally brought him down, but death had failed to destroy his soul. Instead, that soul had crossed into the body of Zhuo Fan, an insignificant servant who could not compare with even the weakest fighters of the Holy Domain. The difference between the two lives was humiliating. Zhuo Yifan had once controlled enough power to crush mountains. Zhuo Fan possessed damaged meridians, shallow cultivation, and a body that could barely endure the techniques preserved within the Book of Nine Secrets. Yet the former emperor had already taken his first step forward. By using the secret draining touch on a wounded cultivator, he had absorbed another man's strength and refined it throughout the night. The process raised the servant's cultivation several layers and gave his new body a chance to survive. That small victory should have marked the beginning of his return. Zhuo Fan planned to leave the wilderness, rebuild his cultivation, and eventually return to the Holy Domain. The Sword Emperor, the traitorous Zhao Cheng, and every enemy responsible for his death would face his vengeance when the time was right. No weak clan, remote mountain, or conflict between ordinary cultivators deserved his attention. Then a violent pain struck his chest. The sensation was sudden and merciless. Red energy seemed to twist around his heart, tightening with every breath. Zhuo Fan dropped to the ground and pressed a hand against his chest. Moments earlier, the body had functioned normally. Now, it seemed to be collapsing without warning. His breathing remained stable. His meridians were open. The stolen energy had been refined correctly, and the new cultivation showed no sign of rejection. By every normal measure, nothing inside him should have caused such agony. For the first time since his rebirth, the Magic Emperor could not identify the danger threatening him. That uncertainty disturbed him more than the pain itself. A known poison could be removed. A damaged meridian could be repaired. Even a spiritual attack left traces that an experienced cultivator could examine. This affliction offered no obvious source. It appeared, vanished, and returned according to a pattern that seemed unrelated to his physical condition. His first suspicion fell upon the cultivation performed during the previous night. The secret draining touch had forced another person's energy into meridians never designed for such a violent technique. Perhaps the body was too poor to carry demonic power. Perhaps some hidden defect had awakened only after the stolen cultivation settled. Zhuo Fan examined his heartbeat, breathing, blood flow, and spiritual circulation one by one. Everything remained normal. The conclusion was both reassuring and frustrating. His cultivation had not failed, but the real cause remained hidden. Zhuo Fan forced himself to stand and continued walking. The pain immediately grew stronger. Every step away from the nearby battlefield felt as though invisible claws were digging deeper into his heart. When he turned back, the pressure weakened. When he moved forward again, it returned with even greater force. The strange reaction was not connected to a place. It was connected to someone behind him. He looked towards the distant struggle and focused on the 2 young survivors protected by the remaining guards of the Luo clan. Luo Yunshang stood between the bandits and her younger brother, Luo Yunhai. Fear surrounded her, yet she refused to abandon the boy or the wounded men fighting for them. The moment Zhuo Fan saw her expression, the pain eased. When he turned away from her, it returned. That was enough to reveal the answer. The servant's body carried a heart demon. Among cultivators, a heart demon was far more dangerous than an ordinary wound. It could form from an obsession, an oath overwhelming guilt, or a desire so powerful that it became part of the soul. Once established, it acted like a curse. A cultivator who violated the belief at its center would suffer spiritual backlash. Resistance would only make the punishment worse. If the conflict became too severe, cultivation could collapse, and the victim could die. Zhuo Fan understood the theory perfectly. During his former life, he had seen proud experts destroyed by regrets they could never release. Some had failed to avenge murdered relatives. Others had betrayed their own principles for power. Their unresolved emotions became chains that no external technique could break, yet finding such a curse inside this weak servant was almost absurd. The original Zhuo Fan had possessed little talent, little strength, and no great ambition. What desire could possibly have become powerful enough to bind the soul of the magic emperor? To find the answer, Zhuo Fan searched the memories left inside the body. Fragments of another life rose through his mind. He saw a small boy standing beside a grave. The boy's father had served the Luo clan and died protecting it. With no family remaining, the child should have been cast aside. Instead, the Luo household gave him food, shelter, and a place among its servants. The clan had never treated him as important. Even so, it had prevented him from being left alone in a world where powerless children rarely survived. Luo Yunshang appeared repeatedly within those memories. She defended the boy when stronger servants mocked him. She reminded others that his father had sacrificed himself for the family. Her kindness was simple, but to an orphan who possessed nothing, it became impossible to forget. Luo Yunhai was younger and far more troublesome. He often called Zhuo Fan useless, yet he still regarded the servant as someone who belonged within the household. Commander Pang had once trained the boy in basic martial arts. Zhuo Fan had struggled through every movement, falling behind even the least talented guards. Still, the young servant refused to stop. He wanted to become strong enough to protect Luo Yunshang and Luo Yunhai. He wanted to repay the family that had taken him in. Over time, that desire became the center of his life. Then disaster struck the Luo clan. Its leaders died, its strength declined, and enemies appeared from every direction. When bandits attacked, the original Zhuo Fan could do nothing but watch loyal guards fall. The shame of his helplessness consumed him. He hated his weak body, but he never abandoned the promise to protect the Luo family. That promise remained even after his consciousness disappeared. It had become the heart demon now controlling the body. Zhuo Fan opened his eyes with a mixture of disbelief and anger. The former owner had left him an inheritance more troublesome than damaged meridians. As long as Luo Yunshang and Luo Yunhai were in danger, the new body would force him to protect them. Leaving would cause unbearable pain. Allowing them to die might destroy the body completely. The magic emperor had escaped death, only to become the unwilling servant of a collapsing household. The idea offended every part of his pride. He had once commanded disciples, intimidated sect masters, and challenged the greatest cultivators of the holy domain. Now, the will of a powerless boy demanded that he risk his life for two strangers. The Luo clan had no treasure capable of repaying him. It possessed no army, no influential allies, and no secret worthy of his attention. Serving such a family offered nothing but danger. Even killing enemies felt preferable to living under another person's command, yet pride could not change the condition of the heart demon. Zhuo Fan could either protect the Luo siblings or watch his second life end before it truly began. He chose survival. Meanwhile, the battle had reached a desperate point. Commander Pang and the remaining guards stood between the Luo siblings and Sun Guanjia, a former servant who had betrayed the clan. Sun Guanjia demanded the returned Dragon Palm, a spiritual martial art passed down through generations of the Luo family. He knew that the household had lost its strongest defenders. With bandits surrounding the survivors, he believed resistance had become meaningless. Commander Pang refused. The returned Dragon Palm represented more than a technique. It was one of the last inheritances still belonging to the Luo clan. Surrendering it would reward betrayal and erase another piece of the family's history. Even wounded and outnumbered, the commander prepared to die rather than hand it over. Luo Yunshang understood the price of that loyalty. She could see exhausted guards struggling to remain upright. She could see the bandits closing in. Giving away the technique might save lives, but trusting Sun Guanjia's promise would be foolish. A traitor willing to murder former companions had no reason to release witnesses after receiving what he wanted. Zhuo Fan watched from the edge of the forest and examined every opponent. The weakest bandits had already reached roughly the 6th layer of cultivation. Their leader possessed strength at the 7th layer, and Sun Guanjia carried an even denser flow of energy. By contrast, Zhuo Fan's newly strengthened body remained far below the power he once possessed. A direct battle against the entire group would end badly. That did not mean victory was impossible. Cultivation determined how much power a fighter could release, but it did not guarantee intelligence, experience, or control. Zhuo Fan had spent a lifetime studying killing techniques and surviving conflicts against opponents stronger than himself. The men below saw only a weak servant. Their contempt created an opening more valuable than raw strength. He stepped into view. The sudden appearance silenced the battlefield. Luo Yunshang stared in disbelief. She had believed the young servant was dead or missing after the attack. Luo Yunhai looked equally shocked. Sun Guanjia's men recovered first, then laughed at the ragged figure walking towards them. To them, Zhuo Fan was a servant who had spent 15 years unable to achieve anything important. His survival seemed like an accident, not a threat. Sun Guanjia mocked him for approaching when even train guards were losing. The bandits expected fear, but Zhuo Fan calmly studied their positions. His eyes moved from their weapons to their footing, then towards the distance separating Luo Yunsheng from the nearest escape route. Every detail became part of a plan. Their contempt had been shaped by years of watching the original servant. Zhuo Fan had lived within the Luo household for roughly 15 years without displaying courage, talent, or useful cultivation. To Sun Guanjia, that history mattered more than the strange calm now visible in the boy's eyes. He believed weakness could never disappear overnight. The bandits accepted that judgment without question. Not one of them considered that a completely different soul might now control the familiar body. That mistake gave Zhuo Fan control of the first exchange. He did not need them to believe he was harmless forever. Their arrogance only had to last until one attacker entered the correct distance. After that, surprise would become blood, confusion would become an escape route, and the Luo siblings would be gone before the enemy understood his true objective. Luo Yunsheng tried to protect him. She ordered Zhuo Fan to stop speaking and leave while there was still time. Even in such danger, she did not want a servant to throw away his life. Her concern triggered another pulse from the heart demon, confirming how deeply the former owner's feelings remained embedded within the body. Sun Guanjia found her kindness amusing. He claimed that no one would be allowed to escape, especially a useless servant who had interrupted the negotiation. One of the strongest bandits stepped forward, eager to kill Zhuo Fan and frighten the Luo siblings into surrender. Zhuo Fan measured the approaching man's speed. The bandit was stronger, faster, and physically larger. Meeting the charge head-on would be reckless. Zhuo Fan needed one precise movement, a single chance created by the enemy's confidence. The bandit raised his weapon and rushed forward. His attack carried enough force to kill an ordinary servant instantly. Zhuo Fan remained still until the final moment. The men watching interpreted that stillness as terror. In truth, he was waiting for the bandit's weight to shift beyond the point of recovery. Then Zhuo Fan moved. His hand caught the weapon at the only safe angle. He redirected the attack instead of resisting its full strength, allowing the bandit's momentum to pull him off balance. In the same motion, Zhuo Fan turned the captured blade and struck through the opening in the man's defense. Blood scattered across the ground. The bandit's confident expression froze. A fighter several layers weaker had rid his attack and taken control of his weapon. Then, before anyone else could react, Zhuo Fan delivered a fatal counter. The surrounding men stared in shock. Their laughter disappeared. Even Sun Guanjia needed a moment to understand what had happened. Zhuo Fan did not waste that moment. He knew the first kill had succeeded because of surprise. Repeating the trick against alert opponents would be far more difficult. Several strong enemies still surrounded the battlefield, and Sun Guanjia had not entered the fight personally. Zhuo Fan's true objective had never been to defeat them all. He only needed to open a path to the Luo siblings. Before the bandit's body touched the ground, Zhuo Fan rushed past the others. His sudden change of direction confused the surrounding fighters. Some expected another attack. Others moved to protect Sun Guanjia. That hesitation gave Zhuo Fan the seconds he needed. Luo Yunsheng watched him race towards her, uncertain whether relief or alarm should come first. Zhuo Fan had survived, killed a stronger enemy, and crossed the battlefield with terrifying precision. Yet nothing in the memories of the old servant suggested such ability. The person approaching wore Zhuo Fan's face, but his eyes belonged to someone far more dangerous. Zhuo Fan reached the siblings and immediately made his decision. The heart demon required him to preserve their lives. Remaining beside the guards would only place them in greater danger. Commander Pang and the others could hold the bandits for a short time, but they could not win. Escape was the only useful choice. He seized Luo Yunsheng and Luo Yunhai before either could object. Luo Yunhai reacted with outrage. Being dragged away by a servant wounded the young master's pride, especially after that same servant had displayed strength no one expected. Luo Yunsheng struggled for a different reason. She refused to abandon Commander Pang and the guards who were risking their lives for her. Every instinct demanded that she remain with them. Zhuo Fan ignored both reactions. Honor without strength would not save anyone. Commander Pang had stayed behind precisely so the heirs could escape. Turning back would transform his sacrifice into meaningless death. Zhuofan tightened his grip and carried the siblings towards the forest. Commander Pang understood the plan immediately. Though surprised by Zhuofan's ability, he recognized the opportunity created by the fallen bandit. He and the remaining guards threw themselves between the pursuers and the escaping hares. They did not need to defeat Sun Guanjia. They only needed to delay him. The battlefield erupted again. Bandits rushed forward, but the Luo guards blocked the path. Steel struck steel. Wounded men used the last of their strength to prevent anyone from following. Commander Pang shouted for the young mistress and young master to keep moving. The command carried no fear. Protecting them was the duty he had accepted long ago. Zhuofan disappeared among the trees with Luo Yunshang and Luo Yunhai. Branches tore at his cloak while shouts echoed behind them. The body remained weaker than he desired, and carrying two people placed additional strain on his recently repaired meridians. Still, he refused to slow down. The heart demon had stopped attacking his chest, proving that escape was the correct course. Behind them, Sun Guanjia's shock turned into fury. The supposedly useless servant had killed one of his fighters and disrupted the surrender. Worse still, he had taken the two most valuable hostages from the battlefield. A plan that had seemed certain to succeed was collapsing, all because of a boy everyone had ignored. He ordered his men to break through the guards and chase them. Capturing Luo Yunshang and Luo Yunhai remained essential, but revenge had become equally important. Sun Guanjia swore that Zhuofan would not escape. Once caught, the servant's bones would be crushed one by one. The threat never reached Zhuofan's ears, but it would not have frightened him. He had faced enemies far more dangerous than Sun Guanjia. The real problem was the body carrying him through the forest. It belonged to a weak servant. It obeyed a dead boy's promise, and now it tied the Magic Emperor's survival to the fate of the Luo clan. For the moment, Zhuofan had rescued the siblings. He had not escaped the heart demon, defeated Sun Guanjia, or secured a safe destination. Commander Pang and the loyal guards were still surrounded, while more bandits were entering the forest behind them. Luo Yunshang had no intention of abandoning her people, and Luo Yunhai had no intention of accepting orders from a servant. The chase had only begun. Somewhere ahead, the fog-covered paths of Black Wind Mountain waited. Zhuofan possessed experience, ruthless intelligence, and the memories of the greatest demonic cultivator in the Holy Domain. His enemies possessed greater numbers and stronger cultivation. If brute force decided the next battle, the Luo siblings would die. But Zhuofan had never depended on brute force alone. The powerless servant had already killed a stronger opponent with a single opening. Now, an army of bandits was closing in, while the heart demon tightened its chain around him. The reborn Magic Emperor would need something far more dangerous than strength. He would need a trap capable of turning an entire forest into a graveyard.